Hey there, welcome to Here's What I Learned. I'm Jackie Hayes, a systems strategist, unapologetic, smutty romantasy lover, Dungeons & Dragons geek, and your no BS guide to building a business that works for you. This is the place where we swap stories, share lessons, and get real about the highs and lows of creating a life and business that actually feels good. No cookie cutter advice here, just honest conversations about what's working, what's not, and how to rewrite the rules to fit your version of success. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of Here's What I Learned. Today I'm talking with Megan Dowd, who is a certified equity-centered coach and trademark word nerd, helping small business owners, creative service providers, and entrepreneurs find brand language that feels good in their body, good in their brain, and good on the page. Thank you so much for joining us today, Megan. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm alive after a rocky Q1. Everyone in the house was sick. Either one, two, or all three of us humans were sick pretty much from New Year's through April Fool's Day. So I'm calling a mulligan. And I think for those of us that work for ourselves and run our own businesses, sometimes you got to just call a mulligan.
Yes. And we'll get to this, but that ties very well into the running business your way. But before we do that, what is something you have been learning about lately?
Myself? Can that be what I'm learning about? I did a tarot spread about a week ago, and then I've always been curious about human design, but I haven't fully understood it. So I've been doing a little bit of digging into that. And the thing for me is whether or not you quote unquote believe in tarot or human design or whatever, they're all tools. It's like Myers-Briggs. It's an incredibly flawed system if you're trying to take it dogmatically and religiously, but if you use it as a tool to understand yourself, it can be incredibly useful. And so I did a tarot spread about a week and a half ago that just handed me my ass, as the cards typically do. And between that and starting to learn a little bit more about human design, boy, am I learning a lot about myself. And I know that that's good. But also, as anyone who has ever been to therapy ever knows, doing that kind of internal self-discovery work is also really hard because you're forced to face oh, look at that pattern. Yep, there it is right there, staring me in the face. Been there the whole time, never noticed it. All my friends are like, oh, that's the point. That's what you're trying to tell me. Oh, you didn't know. Oh, okay.
Well, first off, with the whole tarot thing, every single time I do a reading for myself, my best friend inevitably gets a text message of I fucking hate the universe. And it didn't have to reiterate its message. It was fine. I understood. I was trying to get something different. Yeah. And then with the human design, I've loved learning about human design and learning about myself and my design, again, as a tool, because it's not going to be 100% accurate. But it was that explains so much of why I'm constantly wondering why people can't keep up with me, and why I'm constantly changing my mind on a dime, and just this constantly needing, I have a 4/6 profile, so it's constantly needing to share information with people. It's how I live and breathe. It's my love language. So it's oh, it's all right there in my human design. It explains it all. And now I can't use it as an excuse for bad behavior.
Yeah. The downside of self-discovery is behaving better. Exactly. Or choosing when you want to behave poorly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I can't help it. It's my human design.
Yeah. Have you been watching The White Lotus?
No, I have not. I've missed this season.
There's one character who's always mentioning oh, you're a Libra. And it's not a huge character point, but it just made me think of that, of the way the astrology pops out of her mouth is just so perfect.
So let's come back to this building business your way. What does that mean for you?
On a most fundamental level, building business my way means mutual respect for both my audience and myself. It is because because why wouldn't you? It is it is acknowledging the humanity and everything in between for both of us. And I think right now, specifically, my focus has really been on how can we not necessarily reinvent, but revitalize a service economy among small business owners, freelance service providers that is not exploitative, that is not dependent on exploitation of either ourselves, our clients, other other support that we look for. Like the whole, I mean, I think we're past this, but like a decade ago, the big small business hack was to get yourself a VA that you can only pay $4 an hour, because $4 an hour is so much to them, but it's so cheap to you. So you should totally do it.
So you haven't been on Upwork lately, have you? It's still that way.
I know.
And now they're
Awesome.
asking
I
for
hate it.
higher levels for $4 an hour. Like, we want you to manage our whole team for $4 an hour.
Awesome. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate it. If you cannot afford to pay a living wage for your area, or where like the majority of your workers are, you cannot afford your business. And granted, like that's its own sticky, emotional, like big problem that we probably won't get into. But if you cannot afford a living wage, not minimum wage, I can pay my rent, I can pay for food, and I have any amount left for any entertainment, even if that is only going to a movie once a month. Like there's a whole discussion about a standard of living that we could go off on a tangent that we'll have on another podcast. So the long walk for a short drink of water is that doing business my way right now is really focused on evaluating and asking myself and interrogating what systems of exploitation can I remove myself from? Because if we learned anything, I'm just going to keep dropping TV shows, apparently. If we learned anything from The Good Place, it's that we cannot completely remove harm from our lives, or that we are going to cause harm. What we can do is do our best to mitigate that harm on a very personal level and do the best we can, make the choices on what we want to focus on. It was something that I really like learned and started to internalize in the first Trump administration, that we can't take on every issue unless you have truly, unless you have the financial means to spend all day calling, spend all day lobbying. Like there are times and places where you might have the financial means to like make it your job. Mm-hmm. Heavy air quotes, to take on all of the causes. You can't take on all of the causes. So what are the like 2 or 3 that like I feel strongly about this? So I'm going to actively not engage in, like, I'm going to use my purchasing power in a way where I'm not engaging with this system, or I'm going to always be vocal about this. I'm going to put my time and energy. We have to pick only a few things. Yeah. And it's similar, I think, in our business practices, where we can't remove ourselves as business owners. I see so many folks talking about like, oh, I'm an anti-capitalist business owner. That is awesome. Also, what does that mean to you? Mm-hmm. Like, it's really, really great rhetoric, but I want to know what that means to you. How are you actively divesting from, because if you are a business owner, you are still a part of, especially in the States, at least, you're still a part of capitalism. Mm-hmm. So if you are an anti-capitalist business owner, what does that mean? What are the practices you're engaging in? How, like, let's get beyond the rhetoric. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you and I share is a passion for defining the words that you're using. Yes. And so everything, like I started following you when you were going through the difference between coach, strategist, and consultant. And I was like, this is a woman that I'm going to really love to get to know, because when somebody uses a word, that doesn't mean that it means the same thing to the person listening to them. So strategist, mm-hmm. consultant, coach, they get intertwined, but they're not the same things. They do different things. But also, yeah, like
Yeah.
anti-capitalist. What does anti-capitalist mean to you? Because my practices as an anti-capitalist is probably going to be very different than yours or the next person down the street, because I am prioritizing different things within this toxic system. So,
Exactly. And the thing is, we need everyone to prioritize different things because that's how we take it down. Because we can't all do all of it. So if enough of us are prioritizing one thing and enough of us are prioritizing another, and so on and so forth, we can start to see and make those changes.
so another thing that you have talked about is the online business industrial complex. What is
Yeah.
that?
I I talk about the online business industrial complex in the broad terms of the system of making more money for the few early adopters that teach the rest of us how to make money online, because that is a pyramid scheme
I'm just going to say, that
in so
sounds
many
like
ways.
MLM, quite honestly.
It is. And in so many ways, when people are talking about bucking against, like, I don't want to be an online business or I don't want to do online marketing, what they are referring to is the systems, the tactics, the strategies, go down the checklist of what was taught by these early adopters of folks who looked and said, I can make money online. And the most money I can make online is teaching other people how to make money online.
Mm-hmm.
And so in many ways it's a flexible definition, but the online business industrial complex refers to that pyramid where the cash is always flowing toward the top. It is not being recirculated or reinvested. It is flowing to a few people up at the top. They are the celebrity entrepreneurs like Marie Forleo, like Jenna Kutcher. And frankly, those lead to the greatest grifter of all, the sexual predator Tony Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not great. and and with having said all of that, I love online business. I love business that is conducted online. I love business and marketing and providing, like, creating a living on your terms, because for so many of us it isn't a like, well, I want to retire my husband or I just want to spend more time with my kids. I mean, frankly, like, I am in a place of privilege, and where I could, like, we could make it work on my husband's salary. I absolutely do not want to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, I am not starting my business to spend more time with my kid. Certainly to spend more quality time with him. Absolutely. But my brain is not built to be stay-at-home mom. I will not be the best mom for him if I am a stay-at-home mom. And I don't want, not no one wants that. But beyond that, so many of us that run our own businesses cannot do a 9 to 5 for a variety of reasons. And really, a lot of it comes down to either mental, emotional, or physical disability. And I have a complicated relationship with that word. And it's taken me, it's taken me a long time to come to terms with it. I don't know that I'm to terms with it in the sense that I don't want to take resources from others who might need them more than me.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I don't want to discount the very disabling effects for example, ADHD. I'm still unraveling because I'm a late diagnosed ADHD, as so many of us are, especially women. And I am still coming to terms with when shit hits I should have asked, can I swear?
No, 100%. I believe I used the F
Okay,
bomb
great.
early on. So you're good.
Clearly I wasn't paying attention. Like, it didn't even register. It's just when I'm on a podcast and all of a sudden I swear and I'm like, oh, I never asked. Okay, well, when shit hits the fan, when shit hits the fan, I like my ADHD either goes into overdrive or complete functional freeze. And I'm still coming to terms with, like, oh, this is disabling. This isn't just like, oh, well, it's a problem that if I just worked harder, I could get past it. No, it's disabling. Whether or not we want to call it a disability, we can argue those semantics another time.
Yep.
But bottom line, it is disabling. I have, sorry if it's TMI, I have IBS,
Mm.
and I haven't had any flares, knock on all the wood, for a while. But when I was having constant flares, trying to work an office job is next to impossible. And especially when I was a bank teller for a couple of years.
Oh no.
Yeah. You can't just leave your station because banks aren't hiring enough people like to staff the front. There are two of us on, so one of us can't just peace out. So
Mhm.
what do? Anytime I felt a little funny, I had to just call in sick because it was like, well, I might be fine,
Mhm.
but also I might have to leave
Mhm.
twice an hour for 2 hours. And that's not an option in that environment.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much there that you talked about that I'm like, oh, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that. First off, I love how you reframed, because I have problems with using it as a disability for so many different things, like autism, ADHD, everything that we label as disability. I'm like, I have a hard time doing that, but I like how you say it's disabling, because for me that means it's disabling in the normative world. Like, world has been set
Yeah.
up for extroverts. World has been set up for these kind of people. There, and I'm
Mhm.
sorry, there's no such thing as like normal when it comes to how people think. It's a spectrum. Everything's a spectrum.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's disabling because you're being forced to function in this box and it doesn't work in that
Mhm.
box. But you take
Exactly.
you out of that box and put you in another box, and it's your superpower, because, and somebody like me would be like, no, I don't know how to function right now.
Yeah.
So, but
My
yeah,
my executive function freezing could be your flourishing. And I
yes,
love that for both of
yep,
us.
mm-hmm.
But oh boy, we can't all just, there is not one box that we all fit in and
Yeah.
flourish in.
Yeah, I was, and I love, yeah, I've had the people who have been like, why don't you just try harder? Because I'm on the autism spectrum, and I'm like, oh, you
Okay.
mean I'm supposed to try harder, not to stress out about the fact that you did last minute changes and plans? You don't understand. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not how I spent 500 hours preparing for this trip to the mall, because there might be 500 conversations I might have to have.
I have scripted them all. We
Oh,
have multiple composition notebooks worth of conversations and dialogue stored. What don't you get that it's not a big deal? I will give you this workload and you tell me if it's not a big deal.
exactly. There's so many if then statements going in my head all the time. But back to this 9 to 5, it was very eye
Mhm.
opening for me when I started connecting with more online business owners or people who work remotely on their own terms, because I'm really having a hard time using online business owner because of all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But how, like, wow, no, corporate America is not set up for a vast majority of the people who live in America or all around the world.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for many, many reasons. And I'm not sure there is anybody that it actually does work for, as far as the people who are in the office doing the working. So,
It's a select few. I frequently, when having these conversations with friends, I frequently think of my dad who worked in corporate America. He worked for Pillsbury, which was bought out by General Mills. He's a chemical engineer for 40 years and he stayed at the same job for 40 years. He is, and he'll be the first to admit, he's 100% where my ADHD comes from. The fact that my folks didn't catch it sooner, I mean, not a mystery, it was the 90s, but also like there was a neon sign. I don't hold, like, I want to be clear, I don't hold it against them, but and also I like to joke that like you didn't catch that. Anyhow, my point being, like on reflection, talking with him about it, the only reason, in my opinion, he was able to stay in that job is because he had so many people who understood how he worked and went to bat for him. He had
mm,
so many VPs that would try to put him on the management track. And at one point, actually, my folks had a conversation, apparently. I think it was when my brother and I were really little, where my dad was like, look, I can make a lot more money and I don't want to. So can you be okay with that? Or is this something I'm going to need to suck up? to provide for the family. And thankfully, my mom was like, no, we're going to make it work. Do not hate your job.
Yeah.
Which,
Also,
again, a point of
maybe lose
privilege
your
where
job
he was
because you're
getting,
not good at it. So,
I mean, like, yeah, my dad is not one. Gretchen Rubin's four tendencies, the
oh,
obliger,
yeah.
the upholder, the questioner, the rebel.
Mm-hmm.
My dad is very much a strong questioner slash rebel. And
Mm.
I'm very much a questioner where, like, if I do not understand why you are asking me to do something, if it does not make sense, I'm not going to do it. And thankfully, my dad tells the stories of his managers, of his VPs who would go to bat for him, who would make sure he did not have to deal with the corporate bureaucracy, who ensured that he was free from these things that I am positive, like, would have either resulted in my dad ending up hating his job, which he loved until the end. That sounds really darker, way darker than I meant to do. And the thing is, he eventually was laid off. Granted, he was like a year from retirement, so it made sense. And also, I suspect part of that layoff decision was like, okay, you have created such a niche role for yourself that the good news, bad news is we have a bunch of incoming hires who are going to fall in line, that we don't have to make any of these exceptions, that we don't have to work around, that we don't have to XYZ for.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So I'm a hard questioner too, like die hard questioner. And I will,
Yeah.
during like discovery calls with clients or the first kickoff call, say, or if I just think like that's not great, I'm going to tell you. So if that's a problem for you, we're probably not going to vibe very well. So because I'm like, I'm going to question why are you asking me to do it this way? There's 400 other ways to do it, or this just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can give me a good why, and I can get
Yeah.
behind the why, then okay, that makes sense now. But if I'm like, I don't understand your why, you got to give that to me because this does not make sense to me.
Absolutely. Well, especially if I'm paying for your expertise. I'm paying you to set up my systems, Jackie, and I want to make sure that, like, my client experiences from start to finish. But also, we're not going to do that. What? That doesn't make any sense. It's your, if I knew it myself, I'd pay myself to do it. You pay someone else because they have the expertise you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing that I try to encourage with my own clients, especially with any kind of copywriting or offer building and offer structuring, is I want your word vomit. And if you don't like something, that's great. Tell me everything about it, even if the answer is, I don't know why. Or even if the answer is, it's just the way my brain works. Okay, tell me about the way your brain works.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually I can find something logical to hook into and go, okay, so this is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then that also informs me for other, like, okay, their brain approaches it through XYZ. So I can't go red, yellow, green
Yep.
because they're going XYZ and we're not just going in the wrong order. We're speaking different languages.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
You
find
got
that
to
in
know why.
systems quite often. Like I'll set something up and I'll be like, this makes perfect sense. And they'll just give me like one little thing of like, but this is how my brain works here. And I'm like, oh, then no wonder that system's not going to work for you. No, it's not going to. So we have to change that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so speaking of like setting up offers, let's go back
Mm-hmm.
to before Potato was born. You were like, I
Mm-hmm.
can't run my business the same way I've been running my business. So you had to figure out what that was going to look like for you. Talk about that whole process. By the way, everybody,
Uh,
Potato is Megan's child, if you hadn't figured that
yeah.
out.
Potato is the affectionate nickname for my son because my sister-in-law is a pediatric nurse and worked at a midwifery clinic for a while. And all newborns fall into one of three flavors. They are potato, alien, or old man. And our son was a potato. It was actually, he was 8 months old when this restructuring happened. So it was after he was born. I wanted to get back to work. I already spoke about how I need something that is not full-time parenting. And so I gave myself a weekend to metaphorically burn it all down and really, like, do my best to free myself from any sunk cost fallacy, because there is this, the sunk cost fallacy is strong, especially as we hit economic hard times where it's like, I've spent all of this money and this time and this energy, I can't let it go. So I gave myself a weekend of like, okay, none of it matters. None of it matters. Pretend that you can recoup everything. Like the universe is just going to hand you a check for everything that you've already spent. So that's not a problem. The universe is going to gift you all of that time and energy back. Again, there's a heavy lift in the exercise, but go on the imagination vacation with me. And I thought, what would I want to do? And truly part of that evaluation was, do I want to budget the hell out of our house and like make it work with just my husband's salary? Do I want to have I mean, I don't, but do I want to have a product business? Do I want to sell things? No, I'm not a maker. I don't want to do that. Okay, great. Do I used to do web development. Do I want to go back, heavy air quotes, but no, no. If I had my druthers, what I really want to do is a weird, I'll make it up myself combination of a little bit of coaching and a little bit of like offer strategy and structure and a little bit of copywriting, because I we shouldn't always start with what drives us nuts, but also spite is an incredible motivator. And I saw this, and I had personally experienced there's this huge gap between proper coaching, and we know I feel strongly about coaching versus consulting versus strategy. And coaching is where the client is the expert. I define those three in terms of who is the expert in this situation. And in coaching, the client is the expert. As the coach, I have my only expertise is in asking questions. You are the expert of your own experience. You are the expert of what you want. You are the expert of what is going to, quote unquote, work. And that's awesome. And I do love coaching, and I do think it is an incredible tool for so many folks. And we tend to have these huge revelations in coaching, which is fantastic. And for me, I saw this huge gap between these coaching revelations and then applying it to copy, because we have all of this internal language for how we want to talk about something and what makes sense to us, because it's all connected in our mind and we can see all of the pieces working together in the constellation above our heads. And our ideal client is looking through a telescope and has found that one star. So how do we talk to them? How do we take that internal language and make it external? And that became the like, all right, this is the thing that I want to do. I want to help folks understand that internal language for sure. I want all that coaching, but I also want the copy. I want to help them apply it, because I see this gap of application, and I know that I am very good at it and I love it. And so I created a test offer, so to speak, that was purely rooted in this. And I specifically told my husband, I've got a year. I've either got a year or I'm selling 10 of these before I change anything, before I decide if it's working or not. Because one, I think so many of us that run our own businesses kind of hamstring ourselves and cut things off before they've even had a chance to grow. And it makes sense. We're impatient. We see how it's all connected. So if people are seeing it, but they don't want to buy it, then the idea is wrong. Well, one, no. Two, I mean, people need repetition. People need the decision time, the purchase time is becoming longer and longer as economic circumstances get harder and harder. Mm-hmm. And so anyhow, I'm going off on that tangent. All of which to say, it was this offer experiment that really helped me figure out not just what I wanted to do, but how I could do what I wanted to do around the circumstances of my life. Because I also specifically structured and crafted that offer to be able to work on it in the evenings, work on the copy, work on the structures and drafts and whatever that I could send to clients in the evenings or on weekends when I wasn't full-time primary caregiver for Potato. And And I chatted with some clients, and part of the discount that they got of like, hey, I'm beta testing this. So you're getting a hefty discount. It's 50% off what I otherwise would have priced this, judging by what's going on in the market. Also, potato might be on the call. I might have a baby on my back. I might have a baby on my front. Because at that point, it was very clear that this beautiful little bastard was never going to nap. I don't think he did not take start proper napping until he was almost 18 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My
yeah.
son, he mostly slept for like 5 hours at a time at night. So I didn't have a lot of the exhaustion of like the up. But yeah, he took those nice afternoon naps, mid-morning naps. Yeah, it was nice. But I was unfortunately having to go back to full-time out of the house working. But for the first 6 weeks, I worked half-time, and he just came in the baby Bajorn to work with me.
Yeah.
I just timed it when he was napping, and I went into work while he was napping, and I'd be standing at the copy machine copying things, or at my computer with the baby right here just typing away.
Yeah, that was my original hope. Mm-hmm. And that kid mastered the 27-minute cat nap. Like truly, you could set a timer for 27 minutes. All of which to say, I needed something that fit my current life structure. And it's a beef I have with so many like ideal day, ideal client exercises. Like, I love it. But also, what's the reality of your life? Because my ideal day, I have an hour before anyone else gets up, and I get to have my coffee and my breakfast in silence, or listening to a podcast, or turning on classical NPR, whatever I want. That's not a reality unless I want to get up at 4 a.m. But also sometimes potato even gets up at 4 a.m. and that's its own problem. But like the circumstances of my current life, that's not going to happen. So with my current circumstances, what is the ideal version of that? For better or for worse, the ideal version of my current circumstances is no one is sick. Which again, not entirely within my control, but
yeah, I have the same problem. With that whole ideal circumstances. It's like I have a problem with ideal self too, because I'm like, it just creates perfectionism for me. So I'm like, why don't we just phrase it, what's my favorite self? Exactly. As opposed to ideal. And so, yes, what is the circumstances of my life? Because there are some things that I can't change. They're not in my control right now, at least. So how can I make this my favorite kind of day within those circumstances right now?
Exactly. And I mean, a huge part of that burn it down weekend and restructuring of my business was, if potato will not be napping for the foreseeable future, what can I do either with him on my back for an hour or in between handoffs in the evenings and or weekends where I can do the work that I want to do within these circumstances?
Megan, I have like 400 other things I want to talk to you about, but
and we could talk for another 3 hours.
Yep. But what is one thing that you would tell Megan at the start of this current iteration of being a business owner? Because I know that you've had other things that you've done before, but as far as when you started with this iteration of your business, the copywriting and the coaching, what would be something you would tell yourself from your current self?
To be patient, which I know everyone needs to be more patient. We need to have more patience and grace, but we're gonna pull this full circle. Ooh, look at this segue. Look at this button. But that tarot spread and that diving into and learning more about human design has forced me to reckon with how much time I need. And I have always accepted and been very vocal that like, I am a slow processor. I need time to process. But I have, because of course I haven't, applied that to myself and my own decision making of like, maybe you need time to process your own decisions. Because even if they live in my head for 2 weeks, that's not processing time. That's ruminating and sometimes just worrying. So when you have like laid out the options, when you have gone through all of the logic, what is the emotional processing that you need to do? Because, hey, guess what? You can't skip that emotional processing as much as you'd like to, and you can't intellectualize your feelings away,
Darn it.
which is the worst. I would
know.
love to.
I've been trying for 49 years. I'll get it someday, I swear, Megan.
Yeah, well, according to my human design, I won't. And that, not that it necessarily, like, it's not an effort to save myself heartache, but for instance, I have in the past week completely redone one of my offers in a very simplistic way where nothing about it has changed, but also everything has changed because I've simplified so much. And and it dominoed into like, well, this needs to simplify. Oh, I could have made this. Well, that's going to be easier too. And I do think if I had taken a hot second, maybe would have gotten there sooner. And maybe wouldn't have. Who knows?
Yep.
But if I could tell past Megan anything, it would be to pump your brakes, give yourself a little emotional processing time, because you've got the intellectual processing time. That's awesome. Bang on. You need to have the emotional processing time too.
Megan, where can the audience find you?
You can find me everywhere with Megan Dowd. So my website is with Megan Dowd, WITHMAGANDOWD. My handle on any and all socials is at with Megan Dowd. I am mostly only on Instagram, and I want to do more on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is still the Wild West, and I don't really know what you're supposed to do with LinkedIn. So I'm just lurking there. So certainly if LinkedIn is your place where you hang, feel free to message me and know that I'll see it in a week or two. But I'm lurking.
And
trying
then
to figure
come find
out
both of us and give us pointers.
Yeah. If I get any of that, I'll pass it along.
Yeah, thank you. Don't understand it either. I'm there. Don't get it. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.
Thanks for hanging out with me on Here's What I Learned. If today's episode gave you an aha moment, a laugh, or something to think about, make sure you're subscribed to my email list. That's where I share even more tips, stories, and behind-the-scenes insights to help you simplify and thrive. And remember, you get to do business and life your way. Until next time, keep experimenting, keep simplifying, and keep learning.